It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Bruce Kuntz, here to talk about all sorts of stuff as, don't look now, Bruce, the Dodgers a 2-game lead in the National League West after sweeping the Reds.
Things are starting to turn around. That San Diego series got a lot of people really feeling bad again, especially those first 2 games, but they found a way to come away with the third one. I talked about it with Matthew last week before that series, and just feeling like the main objective had to be go in there. Don't let them sweep you right back after you swept them the previous weekend. And the Dodgers accomplished that. Certainly didn't feel great, but at least you don't get swept, and then you can come back home and right the ship and feel good again.
Absolutely. First team to sweep the Reds all season. That was the Dodgers this past weekend. Of course, my friends up in the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle Mariners, handled some business as well. Had you noticed this, Bruce? I didn't realize until I went on Scott Kaplan's show down in San Diego. Have you seen how bad the Padres are on the road? They're like one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball when they go on the road, and they do have a bunch of road games left this season.
I have not. That's very intriguing for sure, especially knowing that they're playing on the road a lot the rest of the way. That, can only help the Dodgers as long as you don't believe in the law of averages, bringing that back down to normal levels.
Yeah, on the road, I shouldn't say they're one of the worst in the league. They're 32-37 on the road. So they're 5 games under 500 on the road. They are 21 games over 500 at home. So massive difference between those two numbers for the Padres. And again, they've got a few more on the road. So hopefully the Dodgers can continue to add to their lead. Shout out to everybody joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. We appreciate you. Thanks to everybody listening after the fact via Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We appreciate you as well. It is good to have you with us on an off day, on a Thursday, a rest day for the Dodgers. Shout out, by the way, to our own Matthew Moreno, who is at Dodgers All Access. That is happening at Dodger Stadium as we speak. And we will have tons of coverage for you right here on this channel starting in the morning. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube page and check that out, because tons of good content that we've got from covering that event. Plan for tonight, we're going to talk rotation and bullpen. We did a bullpen prediction about 2-ish weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. We are going to amend that, and we are now going to tack on our starting rotation. So we'll get to that in a sec. There's a little bit of difference on if they're playing in a wild card game or if they're going straight to the NLDS. So we'll explain all that. And then we are going to do a mailbag, tons and tons of questions. We got a bunch on Twitter we're going to get through. And then if we've got time, we'll get to a bunch of folks in here on the chat as well, of course. But we got 5 super chats. So let's start there. Michael says, there's a theme to these, Bruce, by the way. Shohei got to match Schwarber. If you missed it, Schwarber had 4 home runs tonight, 9 RBIs, unless he hit another one while I wasn't paying attention. I believe he ended with 4 on my fantasy team. So shout out to Schwarber. Keep carrying us, okay? Phil said, pretty sure you guys caused the Schwarber onslaught with the Ohtani MVP locked up talk. Don't jinx it, anger the baseball gods. For the record, he was in an 0 for 20 stretch prior to 4 home runs tonight. So it's hard to say we jinxed it when he hadn't gotten a hit since. Kevin says, did Ohtani lose his MVP tonight to Kyle Schwarber? No, he did not. I don't know if you saw what Shohei Ohtani did yesterday. I can assure you that in the last 24 hours, Ohtani's lead in the MVP has grown as he threw 5 innings and 9 strikeouts last night. You agree with that, Bruce?
Yeah, Schwarber hitting 4 home runs tonight. Like, Kyle Schwarber is awesome. He's having a great year. Don't take away from that. But we're back to the times of when Shohei Ohtani is a two-way player and he's doing both things really well. Then the MVP is his. And that's what everybody talked about in the American League when he won his couple with the Angels. And now that he's back to pitching, that's how it's going to be. They're comparable as DHs. And if there's one thing that can push Ohtani over the edge and give him the advantage, then being a really good starting pitcher is a really good thing to have.
Yeah. And look, all due respect to Kyle Schwarber, it's just not fair when the guy you're facing, to your point, Bruce, is within a standard deviation of you as a hitter, and then also can turn around and be a very effective starting pitcher that likely will finish the season with as many innings as a dominant closer would have, and a whole bunch of strikeouts to go with them. So, yeah. Let's see. Hector says, did the Dodgers make the right call by not making big trades before the break? For the deadline, 4.34 ERA. Since the break, 3.44 ERA. Before the break, 5.21 runs scored per game. After the break, 5.04 runs per game. So ERA down 0.9, runs per game down 0.17 here, Bruce. Obviously, we're dealing with a small sample size on the after side of things, but as we sit here today, a few 3.5 weeks post deadline, did the Dodgers make the right move?
I think so, because we're seeing the Dodgers kind of come back down to their norm. I don't think anybody really expected things to remain as bad as they were, because we've talked about it many times on this show already, as everybody understands. There's too much talent on this team for them to have continued to play as bad as they were. So you can certainly say that you can wish they made some more upgrades, because there still are holes on the team, absolutely. But I still think that they're looking at it from the same perspective that they went into the deadline with, of it's a really good group, and they weren't going to go and do their version of overpaying to go make ads that might not make a huge difference. And you can also talk about some of the guys that they were mainly targeting haven't been the best since the trade deadline either, especially Stephen Kwan, not to just target one guy, but he's really struggled. And if they had traded for him, then that wouldn't be helping anything right now. So obviously, always with the trade deadline, everybody always wants to be mad, but the Dodgers are in a good place right now.
Yeah, look, we said it multiple times. The Dodgers' improvement was not going to be dependent on adding guys from the outside. It was going to be getting guys back from the inside. The starting pitching, as we have predicted 100 times on this show, has started to stabilize. You've got a bunch of guys who are pitching deeper into games and are pitching very effectively, which is, as a result, lowering the load that the bullpen has to carry. They have also started getting guys back healthy in that group. And what do you know, Bruce? The ERA goes down by a run from that group. I think that is normal and to be expected. As far as the offense, it's basically a push between those two categories. I still do think if you're the Dodgers, you're looking at Tommy Edman coming back, who has been okay as an offensive player, but he will be an upgrade over what they have been putting out there. Max Muncy, obviously a huge upgrade over who they have had at third base. So I think there's improvement there. But I think you make the big point, Bruce. If you go look at, let's call it the three guys that maybe we talked the most about on this show, I would say two of those three have been unmitigated disasters since the trade deadline. Stephen Kwan, who you mentioned, Ryan Helsley has an ERA that's like double digits since getting traded. But the third is Laureano, who's the guy that I said, hey, that would be a nice pickup. He killed the Dodgers. Let's just say that. So the point being is not like, hey, there was nobody out there that the Dodgers could have gone, but rather you're kind of spinning the roulette wheel when you go out and make a big trade. And just because they go out and get somebody does not guarantee that player is going to improve or even maintain the level of performance. Obviously, some guys have and other guys haven't. And so I think if I'm the Dodgers, the argument I made for why it wasn't time to panic after the deadline, Bruce, I feel like that, I don't want to say it's been proven because it's only been 3.5 weeks, but it still stands is maybe the best way to put it.
It's been supported for sure. And I think that it wasn't hard to see it coming to fruition. Like you said, like every single trade that you make or don't make is a risk, whether you make it or not. You can't, it's easy to wish for and envision a path forward where there's a no risk option where you can go trade the entire farm for a superstar that'll guarantee another World Series. But, that just doesn't exist. And the Dodgers always stick to their guns. They weren't going to go and overpay and mitigate the future for somebody that might not be a guarantee that they'd help the team right now. I'll be the first to say, like, I wish there was a world where they found a price that made sense and they could have gotten another outfielder and they'd feel a lot better about being able to replace left field right now. But that didn't happen and they're still really good anyway. So I'm not stressing about it.
Yeah, well, and D Nation says, Jeff, I'm scared. I'm scared to love again, but Conforto is driving me to do it. Do we dare fall in love one more time? It sounds like, Bruce, your answer to this question is no. Do not fall back in love with Michael Conforto after a few extra base hits and a single in against the Reds.
Yeah, I'm somewhere on the fence of I'm not ready to cut bait tomorrow, but I'm also certainly not going all the way back in.
Yeah, I had an unbelievable amount of interactions on social media last night when I tweeted out the number of Dodgers fans who are sad when Michael Conforto does things good is bizarre to me. And I'll just say, Bruce, the level of reading comprehension on that website has never been high. It might be at an all-time low because the number of people that were like, saying things that I'm like, if you are not sad when Michael Conforto does something good, then I wasn't talking about you. Number one. Number two, I never said he was good overall. And number three, I never said you can't complain when he's bad. I simply said when a guy wearing a Dodgers uniform does something well, can't we all just be happy? Like that seems the normal reaction. Am I crazy here?
Yeah, Twitter is the misarticulated sentences app where you can post one thing and everybody assumes you mean another. So you got to fight through that.
Yeah, it was good times. I left most of them to scream into the void, but always cracks me up. Brandon with the super chat. A healthy Tommy will start at center field and second base. Kike will start in left field. Bench, Kim, utility. Call defensive sub late in games with lead. Miggy second base / shortstop. Freeland second base / shortstop. DFA Michael Conforto. Okay, so got it. We're DFAing Conforto. Tommy Edmonds playing center field. Kike's playing left field. And then you've either got Freeland or Miguel Rojas at second. And then your bench in this case would be Kim, Call, rushing, and then one of these, either Rojas or Freeland. So basically, I'm trying to make sense of this on the fly. Basically, Conforto's getting DFA'd. Muncy and Edmund are back. I'm trying to figure out who gets sent down in this situation. Are we missing somebody here?
Not that immediately is jumping out to me. I think this is more of a DFA. Michael Conforto should be in bold here.
Okay, there you go. Generally, do you agree with this? I mean, we're going to talk postseason rotation or lineup here a little bit later, but is this generally how you think things are going to play out?
I don't think it seems super likely that Conforto gets DFA'd at this point in the season. If they decide that they want to move past, I think that it might just be that he winds up getting the El Bencho a lot more through the last part of the season. But there isn't really any benefit to like flat out getting rid of him right now. At the very least, he would be, some kind of insurance. If you absolutely need the 26-man spot, you could throw him on the IL. But you also have guys that are optionable in like Hyeseong Kim and Alex Freeland. If you get to a point where neither of those guys are going to be playing at all this last month, then both of them could benefit from going back down to Oklahoma City and at least staying fresh for if they're needed in the playoffs. So I think we're late enough in the season that getting rid of Conforto doesn't help the team in any way. It just gets rid of albeit not great, but still is some kind of insurance policy.
Looking at the roster, basically Justin Dean would be sent down. Michael Conforto would be DFA'd. Tommy Edman, Hyeseong Kim, and Muncy in this case would all be activated. So who am I missing? Isn't that one too many people?
I'm trying to follow. It's a tough web that we're stringing here.
I think we've got one too many people here. I could be wrong. Somebody can help me out, but I believe with Ohtani as DH, we've got one too many people here. So I know. Thank you, Blake. Rosters expand. I think we're talking. Maybe we're not talking postseason. So I should clarify that. Maybe we're not talking postseason. So maybe we're talking 28-man roster here, in which case that all makes sense. So there you go. Cole points out Ohtani had to also steal 50 bases last year to win MVP. Correct. He is replacing 50 bases with like a bunch of pitching and strikeouts and
I'd make that trade.
What's that?
I'd make that trade.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, there's still some time left for him to add into that. So, all right, let's get to postseason preview and let's talk ranking the rotation here, Bruce. So the exercise is a little bit complicated and we're going to try and simplify this. Obviously, as it currently stands, we have no idea if the Dodgers, assuming they make the playoffs, are going to be in a 3-game wildcard series or a 5-game divisional series. If you're in a 3-game series, you're not going to have a 4-man rotation. If you're in a 5-game series, you've got options on if you want potentially a 3-man series, the way that the series breaks out, and with as many off days as they have, technically your game 1 and 2 guys could come back in games 4 and 5 on historically traditional rest of 4 games in between. Whether the Dodgers decide to do that or not remains to be seen. So rather than just picking 3 or picking 4, I've asked Bruce and myself to rank the Dodgers starting pitchers, the 6 that are currently in the rotation, 1 through 6, as far as guys that you trust in the postseason. Again, for now, we are setting aside rest. We are setting aside how we order them. Just like postseason time, who do you trust the most? So before we do this exercise, and then we'll do the bullpen after, just out of curiosity, do you know, and you've done research for this, so I'm guessing you do. Do you know which Dodgers pitcher has the lowest ERA as a starter this season, minimum 30 innings pitched?
I'm going to guess it's Blake Snell.
Blake Snell is the correct answer. He has a 1.97 ERA this season, and it is a 1.96 ERA since coming back over his last 23 innings. So he has only thrown a tick over 30 innings on the season, but pretty fascinating to me. So that's all it tees. Number one on my list is Blake Snell, Bruce. The ERA has been good. Postseason ERA, by the way, 3.33 over his career. So he's done it there as well, although he hasn't pitched in the postseason since 2022. But for me, number one on my list, Bruce, is Blake Snell. I'm curious who you have.
I actually have, it is a 100% a 1A, 1B kind of thing, but I give Yamamoto a very tiny edge over Blake Snell because I just think that I think the floor is a little bit higher with Snell, and that I think that I have confidence he can go out, and even if it takes 110 pitches, he can throw 4 or 5 innings and not get blown up. He'll be good. But I think Yamamoto's ceiling is really crazy. I just am such a huge fan of his, and he can get deeper into a game if he really has his best stuff. I think Yamamoto is the kind of guy that he's up there with, and Snell is too, but Yamamoto is one of the best guys in baseball. If there's a game 7 and there's a pitcher that I just want to send out there, trust the stuff, trust the pitchability. I really, really think Yamamoto is number one for me right now.
Okay, first I'll say I agree with you that I have these top 2 guys in a tier of their own.
For sure.
I just want to make sure. So you, in your mind, Yamamoto has a higher ceiling. Blake Snell has a higher floor. Is that what I heard you say?
It's hard to put that into words because I think Yamamoto has a better chance to go out and give you 7 shutout innings.
Okay.
So Blake Snell could go out and throw a no-hitter, his like absolute best stuff that he's got, but within a realistic sense of ceiling and floor, I think Yamamoto has a better probability to go out and give you one of those like, postseason kind of games that you're going to think about forever and think like this is dominant stuff. Snell, I have a lot of trust in giving the ball at any given moment and think he'll go out and give 5 innings and really give the team a chance to win.
Yamamoto, second on my list, 2.9 ERA on the season, 10.1 strikeouts per 9, 2.78 expected ERA. So incredibly good in that category, 94th percentile. Last 11 starts, he has allowed 3 or fewer runs in 10 of the 11. So been incredibly consistent for the Dodgers. Worth mentioning, he was 3.86 in 4 starts in the postseason last year. So I would say pretty good. Obviously, some starts were better than others, but I do think it means something to me, Bruce, that I've seen Yamamoto go out and do it in the postseason.
And this is an even better Yamamoto than last year. I just have so much confidence in his pitchability, his confidence, and he just goes out and he looks like he's in control all the time, right? Like going back to he's pitched in the Japan series and he's done well over there too. And I thought that he just really looked like he was in command last year in the postseason. There wasn't any sort of like a rookie look or any uncertainty to it. So I think Yamamoto he's a better pitcher now than he was last year. And even last year, he did a really good job. So I have a lot of faith in him.
So we agree 1 and 2, and I'm perfectly comfortable saying it's close. We have slightly different. I've got Snell, Yamamoto. You've got Yamamoto, Snell. I think 3, 4, and 5, I have another grouping of Dodgers pitchers here. And I have an order. I have one of the 3 guys who is going to be 5th on my list, with all due respect to Emmett Sheehan, who I believe is comfortably 6th on both of our lists. Is that fair here, Bruce?
Yes.
So 3, 4, and 5 are interesting to me because I think this is where, if you're the Dodgers, you've got some options. Like if we start to play the game in a little while of like scenarios and situations and matchups and days of rest, I think it gets a little bit more interesting. But again, the exercise was simply starting pitchers come postseason time that you like, that you trust the most. So I'm curious who you have 3rd on this list.
3rd for me is Shohei Ohtani.
Okay. Talk me through it.
He's been so good since he got activated. And I think that he's pitched even better than the numbers flat out show. And his numbers are still really good. And I think that he's going to continue to get better the more that he's pitching. We are going to talk about it, I think, in a little bit, but he started to work in some of his previous pitches. The curveball got used a lot more in these last couple of starts. And I've just sort of started to see him getting even more comfortable on the mound. And he's Shohei Ohtani. I trust the guy flat out.
Yeah.
I trust the guy.
27 strikeouts in his last 15 and a third innings as a starting pitcher. That's insane. Here's kind of the question. So Ohtani is third on my list as well. I think he is the third best pitcher. And if Snell and Yamamoto are unavailable and my life depends on a game, I would want Ohtani pitching that game. Here's the interesting question for me, Bruce. If the Dodgers find themselves come postseason time really liking 5 of their options, right? Glasnow and Kershaw, we both agree, are ahead of Emmett Sheehan. So if the Dodgers like all 5 of those options, do you think there's any chance that the Dodgers say, maybe we keep Ohtani out of the rotation, on one hand, to kind of protect him as a hitter, to allow him to just simply lock in and focus on that side of the game, and secondly, to potentially preserve him as a weapon that they could use out of the bullpen? Again, I have him third. I have him ahead of these next 2 guys, Kershaw, Glasnow, Kershaw, on my list. I just wonder, again, if they look at their number 5 and say, man, we feel really good about that, and holding Ohtani out might actually boost him a little bit as a hitter and might give us another weapon. Do you think there's any chance those types of conversations happen?
I don't. I think that when Shohei Ohtani is pitching really well, you send Shohei Ohtani out to pitch. That's what he's here for, is to be the two-way superstar in the postseason and go out and be his full potential to go help the Dodgers win the World Series. And I think, like, we both already established, Snell and Yamamoto are in their own, like, class right up there. If Ohtani was going to comfortably and consistently get deeper in games, I would be comfortable putting him up with those 2 guys, because we're talking about ceilings. Ohtani has that ceiling. Like, he can go out and be the best pitcher in baseball on any given night. He's got that kind of stuff. You just mentioned the strikeout stuff has been really, really impressive, and he's in a very good place. So Ohtani is really only in his third spot for me, because he's not going to go deep in games, like, at all. And so that has to factor in somewhere. But on a pure pitching talent standpoint, he's right up there with everybody in this rotation. And taking a guy like that out of your rotation, even if it's for flexibility, anything like that, I think that it's just getting a little too cute and you end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Okay, I like it. Number 4 on my list behind Ohtani, I've said multiple times, so I'll let you build some suspense on your list, but it's still Tyler Glasnow as the defender of Clayton Kershaw, his reputation, his legacy as the most vocal believer in 2025 Clayton Kershaw being a dude. I've still got Tyler Glasnow 4th on this list, and this is way less of a disrespectful comment towards Clayton Kershaw and way more of a, can we please put a little bit of respect on Tyler Glasnow's name? Now, I know the vibes that Tyler Glasnow gives off. I know that people can't wash out of their mouth the taste that they had watching him in the rain, being unable to pitch in the mud, cramping, how bad it has looked and how bad the vibes have been at times. And yet, since coming back from the injured list, Glasnow has an ERA that starts with a 2, folks. It's a 2.89 ERA. He has 52 strikeouts in 43 and 2/3 innings. He has allowed just 28 hits over that stretch. I just think Glasnow's a dude. And I know, like, all the mental stuff, we can talk about that. But, like, if I need a starter for one game in the postseason where strikeouts matter a lot more and not giving up hits matters a lot more, Tyler Glasnow is genuinely one of the best options in the sport. The fact that I'm picking him 4th speaks only to the fact of how good the 3 guys ahead of him are.
I love it, Jeff, because Glasnow is 4th on my list as well, and I'm right on board with you. I think it's really easy to lose that perspective, and like you said, there's been a lot of tough image stuff around Tyler Glasnow. The PR of Tyler Glasnow has not been the greatest since he got to the Dodgers, but we can't let that obscure the fact that this is still an ace on almost any other team in baseball without even a second hesitation. He is a fantastic starting pitcher. He's got as good of strikeout stuff as any starting pitcher in baseball. And like you said, that really matters in the postseason where you're facing the best hitters and you need them to swing and miss in order to be successful. Glasnow's got that stuff. He's looked really good lately. It's still a question of if he's healthy, you're going to feel perfectly good with sending him out there. I know Glasnow, his command hasn't quite been as good this year as it was last year. I've been suspicious that that's been part of working through different mechanical things, doing whatever he can to stay healthy. But the pitcher that he's been, a little bit of a command step back or not, he's still a very, very good starting pitcher. And when we're talking about him in the 4th spot, there is a little bit of a gap between those first 3 guys and Glasnow for me. but that does not take down Glasnow. It's more of a compliment to the guys above him, because that top four really, I think there's an argument to say it's as good as any postseason rotation ever assembled, and Glasnow being in the number 4 spot is really a big part of that.
It's worth pointing out for all the people who love Yamamoto that, like, on a per start basis, since Glasnow has come back, he has been as good as Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Like 2.9 ERA for Yamamoto on the season, 2.89 ERA for Glasnow over his last 8 starts since coming back from the injured list. Now, you could look at his postseason numbers, Bruce, and I could tell you 2 different stories. If you want to be the anti-Glasnow crowd, I'm going to give you your ammo here. He has a 5.7 ERA in 10 starts in the postseason. 5.7, not good. Worse than Clayton Kershaw, by the way, for those wondering. However, since 2020, let's talk about recent history. Let's not talk about like 14-year-old Tyler Glasnow as a rookie, okay? 2.70 ERA since 2020. So there's your positive. Hey, look, good postseason pitcher. I think that's 2 starts. Bad postseason pitcher going back further than 2020. So there you go. Last on my list, 5th, excuse me, not 6th. Emmett Sheehan is 6th. I have Clayton Kershaw. 3.06 ERA on the season. 2.6 ERA his last 16 starts. 1.88 ERA in the month of August. However, 5.97 strikeouts per 9. That is over this recent stretch of success as well as for the entire season. He is not walking anyone, which is good. But I just cannot stress enough, Bruce, the ability to miss bats, the ability to not allow yourself to be killed by bad luck on balls in play. That is the name of the game for pitching in the postseason. And Clayton Kershaw is the guy that knows this better than anyone else. As the Kershaw defender, I could go back through almost all of his blowups, especially early in his career, and say, this home run got out by 18 inches. It's 18 inches between a 3-run home run to Matt Adams and a fly out to right field. Like, those are the types of things that once the ball is in play, you are just at the mercy of some wind and some launch angle and some things that you have no control over. So you have to miss bats in the postseason to be incredibly effective. And if given the choice between Glasnow and Kershaw, I think that's the differentiator.
Yeah, I'm a very analytical person in almost all the time in how I evaluate players. Kershaw is 5th on my list too. He is probably the biggest exception in all of baseball right now in terms of, you just have to look at him and you have to say, this guy knows how to get outs. And it makes it very hard to wonder how that translates to the postseason, because he's such an anomaly in terms of how well he's done this regular season. If I looked at his numbers, if I looked at his raw stuff, I wouldn't expect his success to be anywhere near the level it's been so far this regular season. I wouldn't expect it to be any good in the postseason either, but look how he's surpassed those expectations now. So I think I'm really interested to see how they figure out how they're going to use him, because he's not in my playoff rotation either, but he's been pitching so well. It's kind of impossible to imagine how you just like leave him off the roster, because he's been one of the best pitchers in the National League, really. And in terms of flat out run prevention, and if we're losing that, then what are we talking about? If you're really good at preventing runs, those are the pitchers you want. So I don't know how they can apply him. It's tough to imagine shifting to the bullpen, because that makes the stuff seem even weaker. But Kershaw still has to be in this conversation somehow of how you get him on the postseason roster, just because of how good he's been.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Kershaw, by the way, 4.49 postseason ERA. The last time we saw him was one of the most depressing nights of my life. 0.1 innings pitched, 6 earned runs against Arizona. Prior to that, the 7 starts prior to that start against Arizona, 3.46 ERA, 0.98 whip across 7 starts. So not a small sample size. Kershaw was seemingly on his way to rewriting the postseason narrative about himself, and then had literally the worst start of his career against the Arizona Diamondbacks in the postseason. Again, 6th on this list would be Emmett Sheehan for me. So I'm with you. Just big picture, to pause real quick. There have been some incredible teams that have gone into the postseason. I remember the Phillies back in the day, where it was like Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, and I believe Roy Halladay. And it was just kind of like, how are you ever going to beat this team in the postseason with those guys? There's 28 games to go. As Dodgers fans, we never get our hopes up. We never allow ourselves to believe that things are going to go our way. But Bruce, I mean, if they can get all 5 of these guys healthy, I would even say if 4 of these 5 guys are ready to go come postseason time, we're going to be talking about one of the best postseason rotations in recent history in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the assortment of talent here is just insane. And good starting pitching wins games in the playoffs. So I think this is all exactly by the Dodgers calculations. When they signed Blake Snell, it was envisioning we're going to create a situation where if we have everybody, it's going to be, unbeatable on paper. And if we lose anybody, it's still going to be really good. So we're at the point right now where the calendar's about to flip to September, and everybody's healthy, knock on wood or anything you have around you to try and prevent that from being a jinx. But the Dodgers are exactly where they'd hope to be right now. There's a lot of options because you have 5 guys that you'd feel really good sending out there. And even when we talk about Emmett Sheehan as the little throw in there as a 6th starting pitcher, that's a guy that under normal circumstances and with a lot of other teams around baseball, you'd feel perfectly okay with Emmett Sheehan as your 4th playoff starter. Like, he still is a very confident pitcher. And he's not even really in this conversation. So it's a crazy assortment of talent, and there isn't a single game. If you pencil off those top 4 as the playoff starters, as things stand right now, there isn't a single game there where it's likely the other team is going to have a better starter than the Dodgers are sending out. And that's a really good recipe to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil says, Jeff, but what are Kershaw's numbers the last month and the same time you just mentioned for Glass? Now, I did mention Kershaw, 1.88 ERA in the month of August. His last 8 starts to compare to Glasnow's last 8 starts. Again, I said Glasnow 2.89 in his last 8 starts, Kershaw 2.68 in his last start. So again, I am not denying how good Kershaw has been in the regular season. I am the last person that needs to be told about how good he has been this season. The strikeout stuff is what scares me. The strikeout number is 5.36 over that last eight guys. I mean, that means over the course of 9 innings, which these guys aren't pitching, but that's like 3 extra batters basically that Kershaw has to face, that Glasnow is just going to strike out. The ball's not, guys aren't getting moved over, guys aren't getting sack flies, guys aren't just getting some batting average on balls and play luck simply because Glasnow is just not allowing the ball to be put in play.
And I don't want to use the word luck. It's more like a when will the magic run out kind of thing. And maybe it won't, but maybe it will. You just talked about his last playoff start. He was looking good rolling into the postseason. It seemed like, hey, Kershaw's healthy. That was a year that we were in the complete flip side of this situation where it was any starting pitcher that could possibly start up. They absolutely needed. And Kershaw seemed like he was ready to step up. He started game 1 and it went absolutely terrible. So like I said, it's kind of I've been expecting this whole year, kind of, cautiously waiting, certainly not rooting for, obviously, but like cautiously wondering, when's the pendulum going to start to swing back? Because every indication says that it should. I don't want to doubt Clayton Kershaw, but you have to be realistic when you're talking about what those trends mean going into the postseason. And usually when you're not getting strikeouts in the regular season, it's not just a matter of, those batters and the lack of strikeouts itself. That itself is an indicator that if the, Colorado Rockies are not striking out against you, then those weak balls in play for the Colorado Rockies are going to be hard hit for, the best offenses in baseball that you're facing in October.
Yeah, and I'll be clear. I am using the word luck because I think Clayton Kershaw has an unbelievable real ability to keep balls off of the barrel, to limit hard contact and that kind of thing. And yet, I mean, look at how the Dodgers scored 4 runs off Nick Lodolo yesterday. Nick Lodolo was incredible. He's been one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball for the past 2.5 months. Lodolo was literally perfect for the first 3 innings. And then Shohei Ohtani ropes a single to right field. Absolutely legit. But from there was basically nothing legit. It was back-to-back bloopers over the second baseman's head. I call that Teo's triangle out there. They get back-to-back bloopers in there. They get an RBI single in between, the ground ball that goes in between the shortstop and the third baseman. They get an RBI single up the middle that goes under the second baseman's glove as he dives up the middle. All 4 of those are total crap. If you're the pitcher, you're pissed that you gave up a single hit, let alone 4. And because of it, the Dodgers score 4 runs in that inning. Every time you allow a ball to be put in play, you open yourself up to that sort of outcome happening. And again, I think Kershaw is going to continue limiting hard contact. Now, against better teams, the contact might get a little more aggressive. The batting average on balls in play might get a little bit higher. And that's what scares me. Again, if we were talking about Emmett Sheehan, Kershaw's ahead of Emmett Sheehan on my list. If we were talking about most number 4 starters in Major League Baseball, heck, every single starter in Major League Baseball, Clayton Kershaw is definitely a top 4 postseason guy. For the Dodgers, I'm talking about him compared to Glasnow, and there's a genuine case you could make that Glasnow belongs in the first tier of Dodger pitchers on this roster, closer to the top than he is to the bottom.
Yeah, everybody, I've seen people that want to throw Kershaw into that top 4, and it's just I'm not there because it's a matter of stuff, and the stuff is the most predictive thing going into the postseason, and Kershaw is far above the general. If you take a plastic mold of a pitcher and you throw the numbers that Kershaw has onto this faceless mold, then I wouldn't even be talking about postseason, because it would be looking at a guy that like this luck is going to run out. This is not sustainable. But for Kershaw, he gets the respect to at least be in this conversation and recognize, this guy's preventing runs and you can't leave him out. But it still doesn't bring him up into that tier of these guys that we're saying they're all aces and on nearly every team around baseball. And the Dodgers have all 4 of them. And so it's kind of tough luck for Kershaw that he isn't in that group. And there's not really a lot that he can do to be in there.
Aaron's got an idea with the super chat. Aaron Garcia says, hear me out. Shohei Kershaw piggyback day in the postseason. Absolute best case scenario is it would give the pen a whole day off. Again, at this point, if we're talking 3-game series, Kershaw is definitely out of the rotation. Glasnow would be out of the rotation potentially as well in that scenario. We're going to talk about our bullpens here. I'll spoil mine. I have Clayton Kershaw in my bullpen for the postseason. Do you have Clayton Kershaw in your bullpen for the postseason?
I was going back and forth on for the entire time until we went on the air. I'm right here. I think I do. Okay. But I'm really interested to see how they do it, because I don't know what the best use of Clayton Kershaw is. I don't think that his stuff, like, you can't throw him into the bullpen the way you can. I'm cool with putting Emmett Sheehan in the bullpen and saying he can, let him eat. He's got the stuff that it'll work. Kershaw is not the arsenal that you send a guy to a bullpen and think, he's throwing 87. That isn't bullpen stuff. So I don't know how they do it, but I really have a hard time leaving him off the roster. So I think that he is. Yeah.
Would you have, if Kershaw's on your roster, what would your thoughts be on the potential of like just lining up, hey, Ohtani is starting and Kershaw's coming in when he's done?
I don't think that would be how they do it, especially because, at least for me, when I forecasted out, we're kind of straying from the best pitchers list into the how they're deployed. But the way that I played it out is I think that Shohei pitches game 3 coming off of an off day, and you go in expecting that you're going to have at least a mostly rested bullpen. And then when you get 5 innings from Shohei Ohtani, then you can go to your best guys through the rest of it. And I think that is a better formula to win that game versus having to pencil Kershaw in specifically. I think that if Kershaw is on the postseason roster the way that I would deploy him, I'm not even going to speculate what the Dodgers do, because I have no idea. This is such a territory that I've never speculated in before. But if it were me, I would use Kershaw kind of as a just wait and see, have him be ready, show up to the ballpark ready to throw any day. If there's a blowout game, if there's a close game that the starter gets taken out early for whatever reason, just wait for the perfect scenario where he can throw 3+ innings in a spot where it's really needed. Like I said, whether that's low leverage, high leverage, so you kind of have the flexibility there, where when we talk about like Brent Honeywell last year and that sort of like throwaway role had to be low leverage, Kershaw, you can throw into that role and then be okay with, if you have 4 innings to cover in a close game, you can still go to him. So there's flexibility and certainly value there too.
There you go. Rod points out, Kershaw's shoulder was so bad in that Arizona start that he needed surgery after the season. So there you go. Some context. Jedi Engineer, we also can't have Ohtani in the pen. If he leaves the game after being used as a reliever, we would lose him at designated hitter. Not good. This is also my understanding of the Ohtani rule, Bruce, is that you can have a starting pitcher continue to be your DH, but if he comes into the game as a reliever and then comes out of the game as a reliever, you would lose the DH. Is that how you understand this?
Yeah, that's my understanding, because when you use the Ohtani rule to start him at starting pitcher and DH, then he's essentially 2 separate players on the lineup card. Once you put your DH into the game as a pitcher, you forfeit the DH. So yeah, I don't think Ohtani as a reliever is a thing that they have any reason to think about, for a multitude of reasons, not only the lineup card issues that it would cause, but also like, when is he going down to the bullpen to warm up? You can't send him out of the dugout while the Dodgers are hitting and go throw. And then if his spot comes up, have him run back in it. It's all way too complicated for a guy that they have to be very careful about. So I don't think that Ohtani out of the bullpen is something that, like, any of the other Dodger starters, I would think has a better chance of, a Max Scherzer kind of thing if they absolutely needed it. Anybody before Ohtani.
Yeah, obviously we've seen him do it. And there's a Walker Buehler situation last year that nobody saw coming. So But I think the amount of risk you would be taking on, and I'm not even talking about like Ohtani health risk. I'm talking like if Ohtani comes into a 2-run game and somehow blows it, and then now you lose Ohtani the hitter in a game that you are now either tied or trailing in, that would be the ultimate disaster. So I think we're going to get bullpen here in a second. I think the bullpen is going to be good enough where if they have starting pitchers and they don't need bullpen games, they're just not going to be facing the type of scenarios they had last year.
I think the absolute only way that it would even be a tiny bit considered is if it was almost a mirror situation of Walker Buehler last year, where the Dodgers were out of high leverage guys. And it was kind of like, all right, are we just going to, say screw it and put Buehler in here, or turn to like one of the low leverage guys in the biggest spot of the season? The only way that it could possibly be considered is if it's something so extreme that it's like, send Ohtani out there, or put your 10th or 9th guy in the bullpen out in a 1-run game to close out the World Series, or maybe they would consider it. But still, it's like you said, it's such a risky thing that if it goes wrong, you could be risking injury, you could be risking absolute nightmare on the lineup card, and there's just a lot of factors not to do it. So they'll avoid it in any way possible.
All right, let's do bullpen. Again, we did one of these on August 12th. And I'm going to revisit. You were not there for the original conversation, if I remember correctly, right?
I was not.
Okay, so I'm doing my second one. You're doing your first. The categories here as we go through this are guys that we think are locks, guys that we think we're fairly confident about, and guys who are just over the line. Now, it's worth pointing out, if they are playing in a wild card series, we would be talking about a 10-man bullpen. And if we are talking about a divisional series, we would be talking about presumably a 9-man bullpen, unless they wanted to go 3-man rotation and 10-man bullpen. So in a 3-man rotation, Glasnow and Kershaw would both be available for inclusion in the bullpen if necessary. So that's sort of the basics here. But we'll start with 3-man rotation, 10 guys in the bullpen here, Bruce. I've got 3 guys on my locks list: Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, and Jack Dreyer, who was like sort of dicey because I was like, this guy has just never thrown this many innings. He continues to be awesome, so I'm just going to shut up about it. Those 3 guys I have as locks. I have 3 more guys, or excuse me, I have 4 more guys in my fairly confident category, but I'm curious for you. Locks to make the postseason roster, and we're assuming some health moving forward. That should have been the caveat. Some guys who aren't currently healthy, but those are my 3 locks. Who do you have?
So I've got those 3 of Scott, Dreyer, Trinan, and then the 2 that I would add to the locks category when we're assuming health would be Alex Vesia and Brock Stewart. If those 2 guys are healthy, then they're on the roster for sure.
Yeah, and it's fair. And Brock Stewart's an interesting one because when I say assuming health, I should clarify which Brock Stewart fits in this category. Guys that are like, there's a reasonable amount of confidence that they will be back. Brock Stewart's sort of in this mystery zone. I'm going to admit out loud here that I didn't know what to do with Brock Stewart. And so where he fits on this list is a complicated thing. I am going to, for the sake of this, I'm going to put him in the fairly confident category for now. So you've got Brock Stewart locks. That's fine. I think if he's healthy, then he's a lock. So fair enough by you. Fairly confident. I have Clayton Kershaw on my fairly confident list. He's not like 4th on my list. I just feel fairly confident that Clayton Kershaw is not going to get left off of a postseason roster. I have Michael Kopech, but man, do I want to see him healthy and pitch before I feel more confident than that. I think reputation-wise, he's here. Velocity-wise, he's here. Kirby Yates is on this list. He was like off my roster last time. I've seen him pitch once. I don't know what the heck to do with Kirby Yates. I'm going to admit that. And then I have Vesia and Stewart in this group. So I've already got 8, which I hate because I have 3 guys in my next category that I don't know what to do with. So again, for me, fairly confident Kershaw, Kopech, Yates, Vesia, and Stewart with Scott, Trinan, and Dreyer as locks. How does that list compare to yours?
I think we're departing a little bit because I already had 5 on my locks part. My fairly confident is not a super long list because most of the guys that I'm fairly confident just get pushed into locks for me. But my fairly confident would start with Edgardo Enriquez. I think that he's got a really solid chance to be there because the stuff is just too good to leave him off. And I've been impressed with how he's looked in the big leagues this year. I've also got Emmett Sheehan in the fairly confident because I just think that not only the potential to maybe come in and face more than just, 4 batters, that's something that could help. But also, I just think the stuff is really good. And when we're looking at this right-handed side of the Dodger bullpen, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think Emmett Sheehan is a guy that I trust a little bit more than some of these, these guys that are really struggling so far. I don't have Kopech and I don't have Yates in this category.
Okay.
I think, especially when you're talking about Kopech, he's right on the bubble for me because he cannot throw a strike. This whole year.
Is that bad? Are strikes important, Bruce? You make it seem like that's a big deal. And did you know he throws 100 miles an hour though, Bruce? I mean, it might not be straight, but it's 100.
It's funny because I'm normally not the kind of person, like, if you're throwing hard, go ahead, sign me up. That's how I am with Enriquez. His command has been good this year, but he's been a guy historically that can spray it around sometimes. And he's in my, probable category. Kopech has been to such an extreme that it's misses that are nowhere close to the zone. It's more walks than strikeouts. And it's at a point right now that I have no real confidence until he proves that he's figured it out. Like, I can't imagine handing Michael Kopech the ball in a 7th inning of a tied game in a postseason game right now and feeling any sort of confidence in sending him out there. So he's on the bubble for me. Same thing with Kirby Yates. I want to see what the splitter looks like now that he's back. I think Yates, in order to be a lock or a probable on this roster over this last month, he really needs to prove that his splitter is back to being, one of the best water carrying pitches in baseball. And I think he also needs to prove that the fastball and the fastball command are in a better place than they have been so far this year. Because the Kirby Yates of right now, and especially the Kirby Yates that before he went on the injured list with the hamstring, that guy wasn't a playoff pitcher. And so he needs to prove that he's back to the, closer Kirby Yates that everybody knows. And I think that the reputation isn't enough to carry him in on its own.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with you, and I'm gonna move Kopech and Yates out of my fairly confident category because I didn't feel great about having them in. I had Yates off my roster entirely the first time we did this. He's pitched 1 inning, so I'm gonna settle myself down there. So I've got Scott, Trine, and Dreyer, Vesia, and Stewart in my first 2 categories. You have all 5 of those in your first category.
Yes,
I have Kershaw in my second category, and you have Enriquez and Sheehan in your second category. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm good. I have Enriquez as just over the line. I have him 8th on my list. I have Sheehan lower on my list. The one guy we haven't talked about yet. So again, I've got 6 in my first 2 categories, including Kershaw. So the 5 we agree on: Vesia, Stewart, Scott, Trine, and Dreyer. Those 5, we're like locks to fairly confident, all 5 on the same page. I've got Kershaw on my list. Anthony Banda, who was off of my list the first time, has continued to be really, really, really freaking good. 1.65 ERA since July 7th for Anthony Banda. Now, they already have 2 lefties in this pen with 3 lefties with Scott, with Dreyer, and with Vesia. For you, is that the reason? I don't know if Banda makes your list, if he's over the line or not over the line, but is the concern with him simply the number of lefties you like more than him on this roster?
See, he is just over the line for me in the wild card round.
Okay.
And the way that I kind of approach this is
just to clarify, you've got him like 10th on your list. So he is like literally the last guy making the roster in the wild card round.
I've got him 9A, and then there's a 9B that's with him.
Is that Kershaw?
It's Clayton Kershaw. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think when you look at, you've got Scott, Vesia, Dreyer that are all really good lefties. If you're going to put a 4th lefty in the bullpen, you're already dipping pretty hard into that left-handed side. And I think they have to kind of, look in the mirror and decide what's more important, because I think Anthony Banda has a very legitimate case to be on the postseason roster because he's a lefty killer, and you'd have to manage him very carefully, make sure that he's not in there to face Pete Alonso, because that wouldn't go well. But if you have a guy like that you can feel the utmost confidence in at any time, if there's 2 outs in an inning and you need somebody to come in and put out the fire against the best left-handed hitter on the other team, there's a lot of value in that. So I think really what the Dodgers have to do is look at this bullpen, decide how they think it'll shake out in terms of length, who's going to be available all the time, how are they going to get through games, and decide what's more valuable, Kershaw as a length guy or Banda as a left-handed specialist, because I don't think there's room for both of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because I'm with you. I think Kershaw would be the souped up Brent Honeywell is what I keep saying. And I just think he's on the roster and he serves the role of break glass in case of emergency, as well as you're up by 10 or you're down by 10. Basically, it's like eat some innings to save the bullpen one way or another. And I think Clayton Kershaw can effectively do that. Like if you put him in a game with a 6 or 7 run lead, I'm not going to be worried about coughing up that 6 or 7 run lead. And if you're down 7 and it's the 8th inning and you want to preserve some guys for the next day, I think Kershaw could do that as well. So that would be my vote for Clayton Kershaw and why he's on this list. So I'm with you, by the way, on Edgardo Enriquez, 11 innings, no earned runs allowed, less than a batter reaching base per inning against him. It's hilarious that he only has 7 strikeouts. That's concerning to me. That's never seemed to matter for them when it comes to Gratterall, and Gratterall has been able to translate the velocity success into the postseason. And who knows, maybe Enriquez is going to start striking out more. 3 of his 7 came in his last outing. So as I look at this, I'm going to go over my list. Scott, Treinen, Dreyer, Vesia, Stewart, Kershaw, Enriquez, Bonda. Those 8 guys we are in agreement on, I believe. You have got Emmett Sheehan on your list as the 9th guy. Is that right? I mean, I'm sort of counting here, but you said you have. Do you have 10? You have who? Give me your 9. Give me your top 8. Sorry, give me your top 8. You've got Bonda and Kershaw 9 and 10. So who am I missing?
My top, I'll read through. I have them listed 1 through 10. So I've got Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer, Anthony Bonda as the 4 main lefties.
Okay.
Kershaw is kind of the number 10 of my list of in the wild card round. Maybe throw him in there, maybe not. Decide between him and Bonda. Then on the right-handed side, I've got Brock Stewart, Emmett Sheehan, Blake Treinen, and Edgardo Enriquez. And then the last guy that's kind of right along with Kershaw on that border is Ben Kasparias.
Okay. So you have Kasparias ahead of Kopech and ahead of Yates.
I do, just by a hair.
So Kasparias, good numbers and bad. 2.5 ERA over his last 10.2 innings, 13 appearances, good. The strikeout numbers, though, have been way down over that stretch. I have Kasparias and Robleski as just missed. Brusdar Gratterall, since our last show, we got the update. There is, quote, a small chance of him returning. So sadly, I've had to move him off my list. Everyone hated that pick to begin with. They were right, it appears. So I have Kasparias, Robleski. I have those guys behind Kopech, Yates, and Sheehan on my list. So walk me through what you like about Kasparias.
Kasparias, I kind of look at as the low leverage righty that can sort of fill a not as good role, like I talk about with Anthony Bonda, of like if you need the 1 out to close an inning and you've got a really good right-handed batter up there, you can bring in Kasparias and have him just spam the sweeper and hope that you're going to get out of it okay. They've actually been using him that way over the last couple of weeks. Even in the regular season, there's been a lot of sub 1 inning outings for him where they've just come in and said, here, finish this this trouble that is happening right now. Come in, get us out of it. And he's been okay in that role. Like you said, he has not been the guy that he was at the very beginning of the year. The strikeout numbers have gone way down. His command has been good, though. There hasn't been too many walks. So he's right on the fringe of if there were better right-handed options, then he would not be here. And he might not be in a month. I think this is where I really look at Kirby Yates and Michael Kopech, and I say, you guys are 2 veterans with certainly better stuff, and somebody needs to step up, and then they can have that 10th spot. But as of right now, I don't know if either one of those 2 guys are going to be able to. Yeah,
I'm with you. When I look at the bottom of this list, again, I'm going to repeat this for the last time. Scott, Treinen, Dreyer, Kershaw, Vesia, Stewart, Enriquez. I feel good about those 7. Then it feels like, can you get 1 out of the 2 of Kopech or Yates to make you feel good? And then maybe depending on matchup, do you need an extra lefty in Bonda, or do you need a righty killer in Kasparias? Kind of pick one depending on the lineup and the matchup. Emmett Sheehan, I think you could throw in this. The point of this exercise is not necessarily to land on, but it's more so to say, like, I think when I'm looking at this group, there's just way more guys that I kind of don't hate in this spot, Bruce, than I expected, because I think you could go 12 deep on this group of like, you're only going to need really 9, but I think I can get to 12 and still like those guys. And even Robleski at 13, like I wouldn't be mad if Robleski was on this line thing. He's throwing 99 from the left-hand side the other night. So I think it's interesting to think of how much better of a spot the bullpen is in today, Bruce, than it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And I remember we talked about it heading into the trade deadline of the feeling of, if you go out and you trade for a depth reliever, you might wind up creating problems for yourself more than you're solving them. I didn't get the impression that was taken very well at the time, but that's exactly where we are now. Imagine if you had another guy that you were just throwing into this like 8 through 10 sort of conversation. It would make it even harder because this is a, like you said, 12 deep. of guys that you wouldn't feel bad about. Even for me, Kopech is right at the back of this along with Robleski because I really am worried about him. But adding Michael Kopech to the postseason roster, command or not, you're not going to feel terrible about that. Like he was one of the studs last year. So there certainly is a lot of options. The caveat that I'll add, I don't think we get to October and have it's 13 names written down for me. Not all 13 of these guys are going to be healthy. Brock Stewart, you already said, is right in the, who knows, range. Vesia is on the IL right now. Kopech's still working back on his rehab assignment. There's a lot of injury uncertainty here. And then you also look at, if anybody in the rotation were to get hurt, then you're taking Kershaw or Sheehan out of this group. So there's a lot of things that can happen. And ultimately, I think when we look at these 13, it will probably be a choice between more like 11 or 10 of them. Yeah. But right now, the Dodgers are not in a bad spot.
And watch out, baby. Gratterall. Small chance, doesn't mean no chance, baby. Small chance doesn't mean no chance. Gratterall, making the postseason roster. Who knows? All right, let's do a mailbag. We got a bunch of questions on Twitter. We're going to get to those. Phil first. He's got a super chat. Bruce, why would Kershaw not be able to get the same results as a starter as he was out of the bullpen? Same batters, same pitches. Think Walker Buehler. Why do you like Kershaw so much less out of the bullpen compared to as a starter?
It just doesn't have the stuff. I think when you think bullpen guy to come in and you're thinking a guy that's going to come in and blow guys down or have the ultimate stuff that, can't get touched. Kershaw, I don't imagine the stuff really playing up all that much. And I think a lot of Kershaw's value is being able to provide length and he's got the secondaries to get deep in a game and still be effective. There's some starters, there's some players, when you think of Blake Snell, you're happy in an individual plate appearance. You feel great because he's got the relief kind of stuff that is as a starter. Kershaw has his value that's more like an extended value because he's a starting pitcher. If you're talking about an individual batter, I'd rather have Anthony Banda come in and face one lefty because he's just going to throw him 6 sweepers and whatever happens. He'll probably strike out. Kershaw isn't going to have that same kind of luxury. He's got the kind of pitchability that the second time he's facing that lefty in the game, he's going to be able to throw the curveball. He's going to be able to throw the slider. And it's just a different approach that doesn't translate as well to the bullpen as some of the other guys.
And I would just add, it's also a different routine. You're asking a guy who is meticulous in his routine to just stand in the bullpen and be ready whenever, and then have to warm up very differently than he's used to warming up. So I think when you go starter to reliever, it's everything Bruce just said, smaller sample size, everything is magnified. Plus, I think it's just more of a wild card of how good those pitches are going to be. So I think it's a totally good question, Phil, but I agree with Bruce on the answer there. So, all right, let's get to some mailbag questions here. We're going to start with some Twitter ones. And if we've got time, we'll get to some YouTube stuff. Kevin on Twitter. I see Hyeseong Kim as a better defensive option at second over Freeland. We got a bunch of these, by the way. So we'll try and rapid fire this. Kim is elite defensively at second, and it's a toss-up offensively. Who do you prefer, Hyeseong Kim or Alex Freeland?
Yeah, so I prefer Alex Freeland right now in terms of a starting role. We talked about this last week. I am happy with Kim on the bench a lot because he can potentially play a little bit of center field and be the pinch runner off the bench is the big thing. But Alex Freeland, I'd rather have starting. I don't think that Kim is a better defender at second base than Freeland. I think they're both really good, but I'd give Freeland a little bit of an edge there. So I think the glove is not any big advantage from one guy over the other, and I like Freeland's thump a little better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Freeland, we've talked about this, and I've kind of landed, if one of these guys has to start, give me Freeland. If one of these guys have to come off the bench, then give me Hyeseong Kim. Scott asked, every now and then I hear an analyst question Will Smith's ability as a game caller. What do you think, Bruce?
I've certainly seen this getting talked about for sure, but I think that game calling is not just an individual catcher working by himself. That is an organizational approach. It's what we've seen Dalton Rushing talk about a lot and what they've done with previous catchers. That is a meeting room before every game, before every series, and it's an organizational approach to pitch calling. So I don't think that Will Smith is going rogue. And if there was an issue there, it would be correctable very fast. It's not not being able to hit 95 at the top of the zone. Pitch calling is as correctable as anything in the big leagues. So I'm not worried about it. If there's any issue there with the pitch calling, the Dodgers would jump on it.
AMG, even through the bad stretches, I always thought the Dodgers were closer to the 8-0 team at the beginning of the year than whatever we were this summer. Is this the homer talking, or do you genuinely believe the team that many said was ruining baseball is here?
the Dodgers aren't the 8-0 team because nobody's the 8-0 team, but I'll fit somewhere in the middle of that range, more towards the 8-0 side. This roster is ridiculous, and we just spent the last 30 minutes talking about this rotation and how good it is, and how the bullpen is really not in as bad of a spot as it felt like it would be a month ago. The pitching staff's really good. The offense still has all the former MVPs, and this roster is incredible. They just need to get back to firing on all cylinders consistently. And then hopefully if they can do that over this last month, they'll go into the postseason as an absolute wagon.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the postseason starts and you look at the Dodgers roster, you are going to feel confident. That's what I'm saying. And you're going to feel as confident or close to as confident as you did at the beginning of the season. Obviously, if they're in the wild card round, maybe slightly less, but from a talent perspective, you're going to feel good about what the roster looks like. Dre Day 227. Will Tanner Scott recapture last season's dominance?
I don't know if he'll get quite back to those highs, but I am not worried about him at all. Like, when he comes back, he's the Dodger closer, and I'm perfectly happy putting him into that role. He's the highest leverage reliever on the team. Alex Vesia started to give him a little run for his money, and then right before he hit the injured list with this oblique thing, cooled off a little bit for sure. So I think Tanner Scott is the guy that they signed in the offseason to be the best reliever in the bullpen, and I think that's what he is.
Yep, I agree with you. I think he's going to be fine. Not as elite as he has been, but I think he's going to be good. Lori got a 3-part question, kind of roster stuff. What will happen with Conforto? And then when Kopech returns, how do we make room on the active roster? Lastly, will Freeland get to stay with Major League Dodgers for the rest of the season? So a couple notes. Rosters are going to expand on September 1st, meaning you can carry an extra pitcher and an extra hitter, or 2 extra hitters if you really wanted to. So Kopech will take the extra pitcher spot. It sounds like he is due back right around that time. So Kopech will fill in that extra spot. The tricky part is going to be on the offensive side of things because Muncy, Hyeseong Kim, and Tommy Edman in some order are all due back in the next week or so. Again, you get 1 extra spot, but that means you need, if you want to add Kim, Muncy, and Edman to the roster, you need to find 2 open roster spots. Justin Dean is one of them. That's very simple, and that's very easy. The last one, I think, comes down to 3 people. Michael Conforto, who cannot be optioned. He would have to be cut. Alex Freeland, who could be sent down to AAA. And I think Hyeseong Kim, who could be sent down to AAA. So, Bruce, how would you handle those last 2 spots, I guess, between Conforto, Freeland, and Kim?
To me, it comes down to Freeland and Kim because I think that it's going to be a matter of who's playing. I think Kim still serves, like we've talked about, he serves a bench role. If that's all they see him being this year, then maybe they just keep him up and say, get used to this before we go into the postseason. This coming off the bench, pinch running, kind of lean into those aspects of his game and get used to that. For Freeland, his value is when he's on the field. So if we reach a point where the roster is so crowded, if Edman is back and he's playing a lot of second base, Muncy at third base, then Freeland won't have a place to play. And I think that he might wind up getting sent back to AAA to at least stay fresh, where if another injury happens or if they want to move Tommy Edman to center field and start Freeland at second base, then he'll still be fresh and getting a lot of reps to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to come down to Freeland and Hyeseong Kim, and it's going to come down to like how much they value those guys getting everyday opportunities, because neither of them is going to get them at the major league level. It doesn't seem like. And I think it comes down to like what they want to do with Conforto. We've talked about there's one road where the Dodgers say we want to keep every single one of these guys in the organization as options for ourselves come postseason time. In order to do that, you can't cut Michael Conforto. You can bring him to the end of the road, and then you can leave him off the playoff roster if you want to. Or you can DFA him after September 1st. I believe that would exclude him from anybody else being able to add him to their postseason roster. As Matthew Moreno constantly says to me, why are we concerned about Michael Conforto being on somebody else's postseason roster? But to me, it just seems the most likely, as much as people don't want to hear it, is that they keep Conforto around and they choose between Freeland and Kim, and one of those guys gets to stick around at the major league level, and the other guy gets some at-bats at AAA.
The one other unfortunate, but you have to acknowledge it, possibility is phantom IL stint for Conforto is always possible if they just really want to keep those 2 guys in the big leagues in Freeland and Kim, and that's the only real way to get Conforto off the 26-man without booting him from the organization. But at that point, Conforto needs the at-bats right now to continue to improve and get back to the Conforto that they expect him to be, to have any remote chance at being a starter in the postseason. So taking at-bats away from him doesn't really make any sense if they have any hope that he'll be a player.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out, we are projecting Kim and Muncy and Edman all to get healthy and come back. Alex calls back to be fine. I mean, there's a lot of pieces in here in order to get there. So, okay, couple more questions. Baseball Geek, Bruce, since coming back from injury, DePaula has struggled. Are you concerned?
No.
Okay. Status of Sirota. We got this 2 different times, but what's the status of Mike Sirota?
There hasn't been any update that I've seen. I'm kind of figuring like at least this regular season is a wash because he won't even be eligible to be activated until the final season series of the year for Great Lakes. What I'm hoping with Sirota, we still haven't found out what his injury is in a public sense. So, you don't know. It's his right knee. That's pretty much all that's known. What I'm hoping is that maybe he'll be able to recover in time to play in the fall league. That would be great, but there's no way to know whether that's true or not. So at this point, it's just a wait and see.
Volley asks, is the Dodgers bullpen situation as bad as everyone makes it out to be? We've already answered that question. Unequivocally, no. 2024, they never had a designated closer, but a handful of leverage, high and low arms mixed and matched for the opposition lineup. Do you think it will be the same or different this year?
It's still the same because I think we already just said Tanner Scott's the best reliever in this bullpen, but if the 8th inning comes around against a team that has some really good lefties at the top of their lineup, they're not going to, bring in one of the righties. If that doesn't make any sense, that's not how the Dodgers are doing things now. So Tanner Scott will still be used in the most valuable situation on that given night.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they have him and Trinan left-handed, right-handed, it kind of allows them to get to the 7th, 8th, 9th innings and say, okay, one of these guys is going to try and get the last few outs for us, and one of these guys is going to get the ones right in front of it. What makes the most sense, and how do we kind of eat those last 6 to 8 outs as well? Paul asks, this is a good one. Max Muncy is 63 home runs shy of Eric Karros' LA Dodgers home run record. What chance do you give him to stay long enough and claim that record? He would have to not only hit well, but stick around for basically 2 full seasons after this one to have any chance at this, Bruce. So do you think that's in play?
I'm saying it's slim, but not impossible, because I still think Max Muncy has a lot of good baseball left to play. So really the big question for me here is injuries, because he spent the last 2 years a lot of time on the injured list. The oblique has been a bit of an issue. That's something that can linger. So if Max Muncy were to stay healthy, 2 years is a optimistic view. I'm kind of thinking 2.5, maybe 3. If he were a Dodger the next 3 years and getting everyday at bats the next 3 years, then I think he might have a real shot at it. But even then, if really any serious injury at any point in those 3 years hit, then that would kind of take out a possibility.
Yeah, I'm with you. It seems like a stretch. I think you're right. You would need 3 seasons to get to 63 home runs, probably with injuries and everything. And so that feels like a 5% chance for me of Muncy catching Karros. Okay, last question here. Legitimate Salvage says, Jeff, what do you predict last night's usage of the curve from Ohtani means in future starts in relation to his arsenal? Will we see less of the splitter, for example? So I dug into this a little bit. In his last start, Ohtani threw 26.4% curveballs. That was a pitch that he debuted just 4 starts ago and had not thrown it more than 8% of the time. That number jumped to 26%. It got 4 strikeouts. Guys were 0 for 5 against it with a 57% whiff rate. Now, it's worth pointing out, with the Angels, Bruce, he never threw this more than 8% of the time in a season with the Angels. So the pitch existed, but 26% in his last start, only 8% basically was the high point in his career. Some other numbers, the fastball, 37% on the season. He's been throwing it just 12 and 17% of the time the last 2 starts. The splitter, though, to answer the question, was a season high 12% last start. So the splitter was not what suffered because of the curveball usage. It was the hard stuff. So do you think this is a sustainable plan for Ohtani, who's now throwing like 7 pitches every game?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And my guess is that it'll boil down to matchups of what on that given night is going to work the best. And it's a great problem to have when you've got too many pitches to throw them all a lot. So Ohtani's right in that boat of if he faces a team with a lot of lefties, maybe you dial back up into the hard stuff. If you've got a right-handed team that is going to struggle with that curveball breaking away from him, then maybe you throw it a little bit more. So, I mean, it worked really well against the Reds last night. And ultimately, having the ability to go into a start and say, what's best against this team, my splitter, my curveball, or my fastball, and then divvy it out from there and feel good no matter what is a really, really good problem to have.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jedi Engineer, one last question here, says, do we give Justin Turner a chance to retire as a Dodger next year? I'm assuming the question is not an honorary sign a one-day contract and then retire situation here. But would you want Justin Turner back for a farewell tour next year?
I would love Justin Turner back, but there's no way that it would happen because right now, JT, there's no chance he plays third base in his current state. There also isn't an opening at third base. There also is not an opening at first base, and there's also not an opening at DH. So there's no way for it to work.
Yeah, the Dodgers just can't waste a bench spot on a guy that only hits. And to your point, maybe could play first base, but they have Freddie Freeman there who basically never misses games. So unfortunately, that's a no for me on Justin Turner as well. All right, let's get to maybe a couple questions. If the chat wants to, let's throw some fun ones in here. I have one food question for Bruce, but if you've got a fun food question or a non-baseball question, why don't you throw that in the chat? We'll get to a couple of these on a, it's a Thursday, a non-game night. Let's mix it up a little bit here. My question to you, I tweeted about this. Are you a kettle chips guy?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So Honey Dijon to me is a flavor of kettle chips that not enough people talk about, Bruce. I think it's elite. And so I was going to ask if you have a top 3 flavors of kettle chips that you prefer. Because I'm going Honey Dijon 1. I'm going jalapeno 2. Number 3. I am going to go, you know what I kind of like? My wife likes these is the salt and pepper ones. So
yeah.
Give me salt and pepper, third flavor.
I think salt and pepper is probably my number 2. It's like that like sea salt and pepper that it's a very different kind of salt and pepper than when you just think that generally like it's a refined salt and pepper. I don't eat enough kettle chips to have this like jump out to me, but I think there's like a Hawaiian flavor that okay. I really like that. And so that's probably my number 1 when I've had it before that. That's really good. And then third is a cool vinegar and sea salt. I like the vinegar kind of chips.
My wife loves that stuff. I'm out on sea salt and vinegar, but I am, I'm a good husband. And so I picked those up. Jason wants to know, rank your condiments 1 through 5. He did clarify that ranch does not count because it's a salad dressing, which seems like Jason's personal preference. This question to me is like, it's almost an impossible question because are we talking like on a sandwich? Are we talking to dip things in? There's 100 different ways that we could go, but Jason asked the question. So maybe give me your top 3. 5 seems like a lot. Give me your top 3.
Like you said, I'm thinking through like, are we putting it on a hot dog or a sandwich or with French fries?
You've got 3 condiments for the rest of your life.
When I think condiments, my number 1, this is probably going to get some rile up. I love blue cheese dressing. I put blue cheese dressing.
He said ranch doesn't count, but I'm with you. Ranch is in my 3. So you're going blue cheese. Okay.
Blue cheese is my preferred fries dip. I like blue cheese with pizza. I like blue cheese with just about anything. Then when I think the word condiments, I think about hot dog and I think about onions on the hot dog. So I'm going to throw onions in there. And then I'll probably just throw like, I don't know, jalapenos because that works.
We got to do sauce. We're going sauce exclusively sauces here. So blue cheese counts.
All 3. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll go mine, and I'm going off the board on some of these. Ranch dressing's absolutely on mine. I'll throw that on just about everything. Sorry, Jason. That's what I'm going with. Number 2 off the board. I don't even know if this counts as a condiment, but if we're talking about like stuff you put on other stuff, love pesto. Give me pesto. I'll throw pesto on just about anything. So I think that's a versatile thing. And then number 3, I'm going to go fry sauce. Give me Thousand Island fry sauce, something along those lines. Again, I think I can throw that on just about everything. So there's my 3.
Okay. I think my number 2 in the realm of sauces would be like an In-N-Out Thousand Island, that kind of thing. That's absolutely there. And then I don't know, number 3, those are really my top 2 of blue cheese and Thousand Island. And if I go to number 3, maybe just a ketchup. That's like my backup. If neither of the other 2 are available, ketchup can work.
There you go. We got some Chick-fil-A sauce nominations. Obviously, lots of hot sauce answers in there. Some people are mustard people, so good for them. Chimichurri, also a good answer. But yeah, let's see. Manuel, apologies if you're missing this. Hopefully you're catching it on the back. Zenji says ketchup, ranch, and chili garlic. I'm a simple man. Oh, gosh. Donnie Boy says A1 sauce. That's horrific. A1 sauce is disgusting. I'm completely out on A1. What's that?
You don't like A1? I
No,
like
it doesn't
A1.
belong anywhere near a steak, and it doesn't belong anywhere near anything else. I'm out on that.
A1 only belongs near a bad steak. It's a bad steak, drag it to the finish line kind of sauce. I'm not going to prefer it, and I'm hoping to have a steak good enough that it does not need me to even consider it.
Yeah, honey mustard getting some love here as well. Straight barbecue sauce, hot honey is a good one. So we got some good answers there. I need more clarification because I was like, I mean, again, I've already gotten in trouble for like, is salsa a sauce or not a sauce? Is it a condiment? Is guacamole a condiment? Like, because if guacamole is a condiment, like, sure, I'll throw guacamole on just about anything. So again, the buffalo sauce, that's actually a great answer. Buffalo sauce is a great one. So there you go. You know, we got options here. Folks, that's going to do it for us on a Thursday night. Here we go. My guy David's got a food question, so we'll just pop this up. Are you guys hot dog fans? We have the best hot dogs in the world in Rochester, New York. They're called Zweigels. If you want some, give me a P.O. box number. If you're gonna mail us hot dogs, David, is that what's happening here?
That sounds unsanitary.
If you're telling me I can do this, David, and not get sick when I eat them, I'll send you a DM on social media. But I mean, I'm a hot dog guy. I'd crush a hot dog. Bruce?
I'm a hot dog guy in a sense of like I don't not like hot dogs, but if I have burgers as an option, like in the classic barbecue thing, I'm gonna go for a burger first.
Okay, David claims he can send these to us and we will not die. And I trust you, David. I trust you. I might be trusting you with my life here. So offline, I'll find you on social media. I'll get you an address. We'll get some hot dogs sent my way, and we'll report back at some point. So, folks, that'll do it for you here on Dodger Heads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. Again, check back on this channel tomorrow morning. Dodgers all access coverage. Magic Johnson, Blake Snell, among the folks that are going to be at this thing. And again, we're covering it. DodgerBlue.com will be covering it. So stay tuned for that as well. That is Bruce Kuntz. I am Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers. And yes, 2-game lead in the National League West and still champs.